That's exactly right. So we filed this petition in Wisconsin for a recount in 2 counties. It's exactly as you described it. One of those counts says in the state of Wisconsin, if you are indefinitely confined, you can cast an absentee ballot without showing voter ID. Last election, 72,000 people did that. This election, 240,000 people did that, presumably using COVID and fears of COVID as an excuse. So it was a way to circumvent voter ID. But at the very top of your question, you hit a key point, Sean. We filed this recount, the recount petition, and in it, we allege that we need to see the absentee voter applications because it's an important aspect of Wisconsin law, and they weren't doing these applications. They were just giving people ballots. And as we speak right now, you have the election board trying to change the way the recount laws work to make sure that we're not able to count those applications for absentee ballots because they see just how strong this petition is. We'll see how they vote. It will probably come down during your program.
Hello, everybody. This is Scarlett Pimpernella, and it's November 19th. Just wanted to get on quickly to tell you about that, what Kayleigh McEnany was talking about. Quite amazing what's going on in Wisconsin and how partisan it is, how unfair it is. The Wisconsin Elections Commission, you heard it right, after seeing Trump's recount objections, is trying to change the recount manual. They held an emergency meeting last night at 6 o'clock to make objections harder to make. This was reported on by Andrew Hitt. He's the chairman of the Republican Party of Wisconsin. And he tweeted out last night at 4:54 p.m. That must have been when he heard about it, just an hour before the meeting. And he said that the Wisconsin Elections Commission is trying to change the recount manual. So I did not mean to tap on that, but yeah, so this is, I just wanted to go ahead and look at who these members of the Elections Commission are. They are able to be found on the website. It's worth looking at the names here. We have Marge Bostelman, Julie Glancy, Ann Jacobs, Dean Knudsen, Robert Spindell, Mark Thompson, and it is a bipartisan commission. There are 3 Republican members and 3 Democratic members. But if you look more closely at the terms, you'll see that this Marge Bostelman is in her first year on the commission, and the same goes for Dean Knudsen. So Marge Bostelman was appointed by the governor. He is a rabid anti-Trumper. His name is Tom Evers, and he's been on CNN and some other programs denouncing Trump. And recently, it was just 2 weeks ago, he was on CNN talking about how Joe Biden is the best candidate, and he calls him Joe in the interview, and says that Joe and Kamala are personable and they helped him to get elected in 2018. So he, of course, then is obligated. So he's a swamp creature as well. The Julie Glancy, she's been in there since 2021. So why am I saying since 2021? She's going to be leaving in May of next year. So her term is almost up. And so she's been in there for, the term is a 5-year term. She's been in there for about 4.5 years already. So the same goes for Ann Jacobs, another Democratic member. And so they have 2 Democratic members who are about to end their terms in May, and 1 Republican member who's been there since 4.5 years ago, too, Robert Spindell. So the Republican members of this commission should be ashamed of themselves, and I hope they'll be called to task for what they're doing. This isn't the only incident like this. McIver Institute has been tracking these cases. It's apparently an independent nonprofit in Wisconsin. And this is an article by Dan O'Donnell. It's called How the Wisconsin Election Commissions Destroyed Fair Elections in Wisconsin. And I'll just read a little bit of this so you'll get an idea of how biased they are and how they're not making any effort to uphold a fair election. It begins, to the world, the Joe Biden presidential campaign in Wisconsin began when he won the state's presidential primary in April. To those who understand how Biden really captured Wisconsin's 10 electoral votes, however, the campaign to deliver him the Badger State really began in October of 2019. That month, the Wisconsin Elections Commission, the bipartisan board tasked with administering the state's elections, indicated that it would ignore Wisconsin law by refusing to remove from the state's voter rolls the names of 234,000 people who had moved either out of state or to a different city in Wisconsin. And then it goes on to describe the process of how this database, Electronic Registration Information Center database, will flag voters who appear to have to not have responded or not be at the address that's listed. And apparently by this statute, 6.50, the WAC is required to notify the elector. And then if they don't respond within 30 days, they're to be purged from the rolls. So this hasn't happened this year. Again, keep in mind that at this point, Wisconsin, Joe Biden is leading by just over 20,000 votes. So, so yeah, it is close. And there is one more article about the code that came out yesterday in American Thinker. And apparently this author is suggesting that Trump won in Michigan and Wisconsin. And he has used Dan Rabel, who's a Swiss man, or maybe not a Swiss man, actually. He lives in Switzerland. And he wrote another article about how he saw the sudden switch from a Trump to a Biden lead in Wisconsin. And apparently this happened between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. And the Wisconsin icon switched from light red Trump to light blue Biden. In that same instant, the probability meter, which had been very accurate in 2016, jerked from a 77% Trump likelihood to over 80% Biden. And he downloaded the data from the New York Times database, and he was able to determine the time that this happened. It happened between 3:37 a.m. and 3:42 a.m. And these are the number of votes that came in for Biden, about 100. And he was able to take the lead by about 120,000 votes at that time. So, so yeah, there is just a lot going on. And I think there are a lot of encouraging things going on too, though, because the Wisconsin Elections Commission has just blatantly disregarded the law, and they will be called to task for it. So that's all that I have for you all today. Hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for tuning in, and bye, 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 bye.